My name is Ben, and I have the privilege of serving in a dual role here at Beulah. One of my roles is that I am the youth ministry coordinator, which means that I get to coordinate youth worship and walk with students as they begin to step into their leadership in worship and be a part of serving in that way. And my other role is First Steps Ministry Coordinator, which is where I get to walk with people as they are just coming into the church and coming into understanding of what it means to follow Jesus. And so, I have the great privilege of doing that. A big part of my story is that I did grow up in the church, but quite literally because my mom was a pastor. I had an understanding of who Jesus was, how God loved me, and I don't really remember a time before believing. That kind of sets the stage of where I was before we had moved when I was in grade 4. It was a hard place for me to be because when we moved there, I started getting bullied pretty heavily, both physically and verbally. And I wouldn't say that I ever stopped believing, but I began to believe that, even if God is real, that He's not kind, or that He doesn't actually love me. Because if He did love me, then I wouldn't go through these things. It did get pretty dark in those times of, I was 11 years old and, contemplating suicide and just to think of how my life had changed so much in such a short amount of time. Even when we did move back to Edmonton, I had come to believe these things about myself. My value and my self-worth was so low. I kind of didn't believe that people could really love me. And so that was kind of the place of where I was at when I started to get more connected and more open to God again in my relationship with Him. That progressed over a couple years, and that kind of brings to where Beulah came into my story. I was invited by a friend who went to Beulah. She was part of the youth ministry, and she invited me to come out for a night. I just felt so welcomed from the event that I had gone to, and then into, I got welcomed right into a small group right away. It was really such a different experience from what I had experienced. I think through that, there was kind of this gradual process of Beulah began to be a really safe space for me to kind of tear down the walls that I built up. I had some leaders who, even as broken and hurt as I was as that youth, that they somehow saw leadership in me. I had only just begun to play guitar and sing in high school, and so as it goes, you eventually get involved in worship that way. That was such a significant thing for me. I'd say worship was first and foremost a big place of healing between God and myself. There's a song, Heart of Worship, where I had been in such a place of low worth, and it talks about in the song of bringing something of worth that's more than a song, and even though I felt worthless, the truth was that the creator of the universe, the King of Kings, found value in me and wanted my heart, even though it was broken and damaged. And that was so counter to what I'd come to believe. Through that, I guess I got to build back my understanding of what it means to be a child of God. And I now get to, just as I was poured into by leaders and through youth and through youth worship, I get to do the same. I think part of why it's so important to me and why I love worship leading and instilling that passion in others is that I know that it's more than just songs, but that there's such encounter to be had with God. And in worship, I feel like there's just this kind of disarming that happens. You can just be so open with God. Yeah, I want that for youth, and I've seen that happen and seen how God's changed their lives. And then in the same way that I was enabled to lead, that I've seen them lead and walk into that. And that's been a beautiful thing.